Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC, and I'm back with another TUF review. Obviously I wasn't here last week unfortunately, but we did see Timur Valiev pick up another victory for Team Chandler, and he did go for Chandler's team went 4-0. The veterans are just taking over right now. Like, it's just crazy. I did say in the episode before, so not last week, the week before, that I did have high hopes for Timur Valiev, and I was very shocked that I did kind of cut him after only one loss in the UFC. But things happen. We've got a lot to dive into today, and I cannot wait to get into it. I hope you're all doing well. Without further ado, let's pop onto the old side screen. Classic. As I said before, I hope you're doing well. We had a lot went on in this episode. So obviously, as I said before, Conor is 4-0 down. Chandler is 4-0 up. What is Conor going to do to sort of get his team going? What can he do? If anyone's in the chat, what would you advise Conor to do? Because seriously, it's just getting ridiculous now. The show started off with Conor. He entered the fighter house just to sort of take his team into the fighter house, and in the back room, set up the old little rowing machines and just tried a little bit of bonding with his team, and just had a little bit of competitive competition with them to see who could row the fastest, and just tried to get his team going because he needed that team morale. He needed something, but he needed to get that team morale up, team spirit. What would you honestly do if you were Conor? Because you're 4-0 down. Tell me. Breezy's in the chat. Welcome in, Breezy. Hope you're doing well. Unfortunately, the chat's not working my end. God knows why. But I hope you're doing well. As I said before, Breezy, what would you do? You're Conor. You're 4-0 down. You're trying to get your team motivated. What can you do? Honestly, what would you do? It's just one of them things where... it's one of them things, isn't it, guys? But yeah, anyway, Conor took his team for a little competition, little competitiveness, little bit back and forths on the old rowing machines, get that team morale. Will it work? Will it won't work? Is he going to go 5-0 down, or is he going to get that all-important victory, and then his team can thrive off of that victory? But we're going to get into it in a second. But as you know, this episode 5, it is Carlos Vera, who is 11-3. He taking on Brad Katona, who is 12-2, and Brad Katona is the season 27 winner. So he's already been here and done this, so he knows the ins and outs of what to expect from the show anyway, let alone being in the UFC as well. So he's kind of got an edge on every single person in the Ultimate Fighter house. He's obviously been there and done it, but yeah, he's probably got a lot of experience as well. But Brad Katona trains with Conor and the guys at SBG, so it's a bit of a hard one for him, because obviously he's Team Chandler, and obviously his real team is John Kavanagh and Conor McGregor's team. He trains with them. So where is his loyalty going to lie there, if you know what I mean? Like, where would your head be at? Like, you're Brad Katona. You train every week in, week out, with the likes of Conor McGregor and obviously John Kavanagh, who's coaching the other team. Like, where would your head be at? It's a funny one, right? But he's saying, don't get the Shada Paul. I guess that's what he will do. Talking about Conor. Will he fight at the end of the year? Who knows? Who knows will he fight? But yeah, as I said before, obviously Brad Katona obviously trains with Conor and the guys at SBG. And then there was another little conversation between Chandler and Katona, and they were just talking tactics. And so that was a bit of an awkward conversation. Raphael, what's up, fella? How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, there was a bit of an awkward conversation between Brad Katona and Chandler. So Brad Katona wanted to watch a bit of tape on obviously his opponent again, which is fair enough. You want to watch how your opponent fights, the way they fight. Really, you want to get the ins and outs and sort of get what you feel for how he's going to approach his fights. So nothing wrong in that. Obviously, he's approached Chandler and said, "Listen, like, it's a week before the fight. I want to do some tape." And then, yeah, there's a bit of an awkward conversation. Chandler's like, yeah, we'll get to that. We're just going to do a bit of wrestling. We're going to do a bit of striking, and then we'll get into a bit of tape. And there, yeah, it was a bit of an awkward conversation. Again, if that was you, bearing in mind, obviously, you've got your actual official team trying to train Vera to try and beat you. So that's a bit of an awkward situation. You've got Conor in the team over there trying to, with Vera, approaching the fight to fight you when you train with them, officially, to try and beat you. It's a very awkward situation to be in. Like, where would your head be at if you are Katona anyway? Because obviously he wants to win. You're there for yourself at the end of the day, right? Right? You're there for yourself. I know you train with these guys, and obviously they're your coaches and stuff, but you ultimately are there for yourself, and you want to be your best self. You want to go on and win it. And to be fair to Brad Katona, he could make history. If he goes on and wins this, he's the first person ever to win 2 Ultimate Fighters. That in itself is an achievement. So again, I could see why he wants to watch tape. Obviously, he's motivated in himself. But again, it's always going to be in the back of your mind, like, hang on a minute, like, my coaches are over there trying to train this Vera guy to try and beat me. But yeah, where would your head lie out of that? Just as a quick question to you guys in the chat. As I said, hope you're doing well. Yeah. Each fighter gets their all-important training session in, as they do on every episode. I always have a little bit of background story on the fighters, and obviously for the ones that are prospects, which is Carlos Vera, shows you a little bit about him and his little story. So, as I said, they get their training sessions in, and Chandler's team is up first in the gym. Okay, and so Conor's team is approaching. They're about to go into the gym, and obviously Katona's training partners, John Kavanagh and everyone like that, are getting in and getting ready to set up their class. And Katona's like having a bit of banter with them and a little bit of back and forth, jokiness. And Brad Katona's team are waiting in the coach for him because he's taken ages to get back in the coach. So Brad Katona's team are in the coach waiting for him, and he's talking with his team. So again, where would your head lie? Well, if you were a Team Chandler, you're all in there waiting for him, and he's having banter with the other team. Again, I know I get that you're on teams, but as I said a second ago, you're ultimately there for yourself. If you was in Team Chandler, if you was in that coach, where would your head lie? Like, I know you want to win as a team, but ultimately you're there to win. You're going to fight someone on your team eventually in the final, right? At this rate, it's going to happen because obviously Team Chandler's 4-0 up. So ultimately, you technically can fight someone that's going to be on your team. So again, you're there for yourself. But my question is to you, the chat: where would your head lie? Who knows? And an interesting one, John Kavanagh, obviously, which is the coach of obviously Conor McGregor and the guys at SPG, he has stepped away from coaching Carlos Vera against his own guy Katona. So he wasn't going to be in the corner of Carlos Vera. He wasn't going to be taking part in any training with Vera. That's a crazy thing to happen. Obviously, we know where John Kavanagh, his loyalty's like, and obviously that's with Katona, and obviously he doesn't want to take any part in it, doesn't want to get involved in anything. So he steps away. So it's the rest of the coaching staff that train Carlos Vera. Again, that's all these things playing on your mind. It's an interest. If you're Carlos Vera, where's your head going to lie? I think in the head coach of this team. Obviously, I know it's Conor, but you know what I mean. But where's your head going to lie? Interesting things that are playing on your mind throughout fight week for both sides, and obviously it's building a bigger picture for the fight itself. Interesting stuff there. But a little bit of background on obviously the fighters. Obviously, Carlos Vera, on his professional record, has got 1 KO, 5 submissions. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Watching a little bit of tape on him, he's got great jiu-jitsu. Every time he does get taken down, he always threatens the submissions. And he's like capoeira, kicking game. He's very good at kicks, which I'm interested to see when we get into the breakdown of the fight, if he's going to use them or not. Because he's a very kick-heavy game. Very good kicks. I'm interested to see if they plan out in the fight. Move on to Katona. So Brad Katona, as I mentioned before, the season 27 winner. So he's been here and done it. He's got the experience, and he's professional. He's got 1 KO and 3 submissions. An interesting fact, if you didn't know, on his resume, he did go 3 rounds with Marab Dishvili. which is an interesting stat to go 3 rounds with Merab. You know what I mean? And he said in a little bit of build up towards the fight that he wants to get that fight back. So he's motivated to sort of obviously get back into the UFC and even get that fight back. So that's a little bit of stat there to go 3 rounds with Marlon Vera. He's very patient on the feet. So obviously if you've watched a fight, you'll see he's very patient to start with. But against someone like Vera, do you really want to be too patient? Because as I said, Vera's kicking game is very good and he's very fast with his kicks. So do you want to be very patient in the fight against someone with the kicking game of Vera? We're going to see. But yeah, usually he's very patient. But interested to see if he is going to be very patient, obviously, in this fight. But yeah, obviously, we're talking about these two gentlemen's. So obviously, you got Carlos Vera there and obviously Brad Katona of Team Chandler. Let's dive into it then. Without further ado, let's get into it. So round number 1, as I said before, Brad Katona is a very patient fighter. And what we noticed in the training sessions, which Team Chandler, again, I've always rated his coaching style, and even still of where his sort of team wondered where Brad Katona's loyalties lied. Because obviously he trains with obviously the SPG guys over at Conor's team. But Chandler still gave it his utmost best to try and coach Katona in the best way possible. And one of the things that I did pick up on was whenever Carlos Vera kicks, he steps back to reset. Okay, and Chandler was telling Katona every time he steps back to reset, you go in. And to be fair to Brad Katona, he was listening to Chandler, because every time we saw start of round 1, we saw a few kicks from Vera, but every time the kicking game stopped, he took that step back to reset his feet. And Brad Katona was in, and we can see there in the top picture, he was in there, landed an overhand right to get in close to Vera, got him up against the cage, and that's where he got the takedown. And this is where the first round sort of ended. It was just literally Brad Katona trying to advance position, softening his opponent up. But yeah, majority of the first round was Brad Katona on top of Carlos Vera and softening him up, trying to advance. And that's what round 1 was. But as I said, beautiful game plan from Chandler. And fair play to Brad Katona listening to his coach in Chandler, because, as I said before, perfectly executed entries. As every time he stepped back to reset his feet in Vera, Brad Katona was in. So that was very, very smart and a very good game plan from Chandler. But that was round number 1. We go into round number 2. As I said before, the kicking game of Vera comes into play at the very start of round 2. As we see here, kicking game again. Great kicks, great body kick. I think the spinning back kick there at the bottom did sort of take a step. Brad took a step back and it did kind of hurt him. And you can see there in the bottom left as well, Conor's getting animated again. And it was nice to see Conor a bit more animated. Again, where would your head lie when you train with someone like Conor? And he's shouting at Carlos Vera to hurt a training partner. Obviously, Brad Katona, I know you're in it for yourself and things like that. But again, Brad trains with Conor and the guys over at SPG. And Conor's shouting, saying, oh, that hurt him, go for him. Hurt him. Like, again, where would your head lie? It's an interesting question, chat. Let me know where your head would lie when you're trying to fight someone and then you've got your training partners shouting at you to, like, for your opponent to hurt you and things. It's an interesting fact. Interesting one. But as I said before, what did I say in round number 1? The kicking game of Vera is very good, but he always resets. And exactly the same thing as round number 1. Brad Katona, when Carlos Vera resets, Brad Katona here up against the cage again, like round number 1, takes him down and again soften him up, trying to advance. And he managed to advance into a rear naked choke position, as we see here. And it was so close to being finished in round number 2 from Brad Katona. Did so well, but I've got hats off to Vera. Defended the rear naked choke so well. Defended it that well that he managed to advance positions and turn it round onto Brad Katona. And as you see there, he was on top. But for how long? He was on top for a while, but Brad Katona made his way back to his feet. And again, we're back to that same position. where Brad Cotone is pressuring Carlos Vera up against the cage. And what happens next? He takes him down, and the majority of the second round, as the start of the first, as the middle part of round number 2, Brad Cotone ends the round on top. And as the sneak little peek, which I accidentally gave away, we see that Brad Cotone picks up a unanimous decision win. So, Team Chandler go 5-0 up in the series. Would you believe it? Who would have thought this? Anyone in the chat? Would you have thought that like without the teams being set, that Chandler's team, even if it was the veterans or if it was the prospects, would you have seen anyone go 5-0 up in this season? I could not see it. But obviously, the questions were asked of where Conor's head was. His head would lie, really. Obviously, coming back, doing TUF again. Obviously, all this, as Breezy mentioned a second ago, all the USADA talk. Would that be playing on Conor's mind? Obviously, not getting involved properly with the coaching and things like that. He never shows up to the weigh-ins. And like I said before, you've seen me do, if you've been to some of my review shows before, I like to twice I put a picture in of Chandler putting his arm around his fighters, even though they've won, and giving them a little talking to. So, even though they've won, he puts his arm around them, gives them a good talk, and just everything that you want in a coach is literally all in Chandler. But as I said before at the start of this, where would your head lie if you're Conor? You're 5-0 down. What are you going to do? Obviously, the last episode that I didn't do where Timur Valiev won, Conor even got drastic and brought in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just to try and get his team going, bring a great fighter in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson into the gym just to try and give that team a bit of a boost. But that didn't even work. Obviously, Timur Valiev are very experienced though, so nonetheless, that didn't work. So what is Conor going to do? Seriously, that's my question to you, the chat. What would Conor? What's he going to do? And if not, is there anyone on his team that is going to get a win? And if I say anyone on his team is going to get the win, let's bring this one up then. So, obviously, you see all lighting up there on Chandler's side. And then, obviously, all darkened out on Conor's side. But, obviously, you see there you got Lee Hammond. And again, Lee Hammond, obviously, he is an SBG guy. And he trains with Conor. And he trains with the likes of Brad Cotone. So, he is obviously Conor's number 1 lightweight, and he's going to be taking on Kurt Hummelberg. So again, the veteran versus the prospect, and obviously Conor must rate this Lee from SBG, because he's his number 1 seed in the lightweights. So how is that matchup going to fare? Is Lee going to bring a victory to Conor? And obviously, how's the morale going to be, even though it's so bad now, how's the morale going to be if an SBG guy in Lee can't get a win? And obviously, when we see, obviously, if you've watched the episodes, you can kind of see that Conor holds back when he's in the training sessions. He never gets really, really, really into it. And obviously, Chandler does. But the little glimpse of the end of this episode, of the next episode coming up, Conor's really, really diving into it. But is that because it's his own training partner that he trains with in Lee? Is this going to be another Artem show, but with Lee? Because obviously they train together and he's an SBG guy. Is he going to put all of his focus on Lee now? If you were Conor, you're kind of going to have to now. Because obviously you know him, you know how he fights, you know his strengths, you know his weaknesses. And you've really got to dive in on Kurt, and you've really got to get your tactics on point. And obviously, as I said before, Conor really needs to dive in on what he needs to do to get that all-important victory and get his team going. And I think Lee could potentially do that just because of Conor's going to do his utmost best in this next fight, because obviously he trains with Lee. Give me your thoughts on that, chat. Do you think that that Lee is going to get the victory for Team Conor? Or is it going to be 6-0 to Team Chandler? Again, if you've been watching the episodes, what's your thoughts on them? And as we've seen quite a few fights now, guys. We've seen quite a few. And obviously, I couldn't ask the question because we were too early in to the season for me to sort of ask. But is there any standout fighters there that have got a victory or even coming up, because obviously we know the likes of Jason Knight, very experienced Jason Knight. An interesting fact as well, before I do get into that, we see there at the bottom there, Hunter. An interesting fact, which could be very, very interesting, which obviously I will bring up when we get to his fight. But there, you see there at the bottom, Hunter, which is the #1 bantamweight. He actually beat Brad Katona in the UFC. And that was Brad Katona's last fight in the UFC before he got cut. And they're in the same house together again. I don't know if anyone noticed that. Did anyone notice that? Because I literally only just noticed it this episode. So it's because obviously I did a research on Brad Katona, because obviously I was watching his fighting style and just to sort of dive in on tactics and things, and obviously just to break the fight down for you guys. But an interesting fact, Hunter beat Brad Katona in the UFC, and that was his last fight. So could you imagine them two in the final? That's going to be fire, right? Obviously Brad Katona's last loss, Hunter's victory, beat Brad Katona. They're in the same. They're in the same house, on the same team as well. That's nuts. That is crazy. Welcome in, Charles Barkley. Hope you're doing well, sir. Says, not Connor's fault. His team is bums. Contender Series took all the good prospects. Well, that's an interesting point there you mentioned, Charles. Because obviously, at the very start, there was a lot of fighters that were on this. Obviously, I don't know what team they would have gone on. Well, actually, no, they would have gone on McGregor's, wouldn't they? Because they're prospects. Actually, no, they wouldn't have. They would have gone on Chandler's, because there was Chris Martino that was actually meant to be on the show. And there was a couple of other fighters that were meant to be on The Ultimate Fighter. But Conor got a couple of guys replaced, didn't he? At the very start of the show, before it even started, he replaced a few. Got some of his own guys on there. And obviously, one being Brad Katona that's got a win. Lee, who's up next. Massive salute. Yes, Tuto, welcome in, sir. Hope you're doing well. Back to what I was saying. Is there anyone there that, obviously, if you've seen some of the episodes or if you've seen any of the fights during The Ultimate Fighter, again, don't forget to drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already. But yeah, as I mentioned, like, who is going to get a win for Conor? And is there any standouts? My standouts for the bantamweight division, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, is Timur Valiev. I just think his talent is unreal, and I think he will go all the way. But for the lightweights, I honestly think Austin Hubbard as well. So I've got Timur Valiev of the bantamweights and the lightweights of Austin Hubbard. I think them two could go all the way. Jason Knight's a dark horse, I think. Who knows? But as I said before, Hunter and Brad have already fought. Could you imagine if that's the final? That is crazy. I've said it now. Hopefully we can keep it up if them two make the final. And it speaks volumes that them two are there, because obviously they've fought each other before and they're trying to make their way back into the UFC. Who knows? But let's get rid of that for you. Conor absolutely needs to kick up the bum. He needs a victory. Lee Hammond could do it, because obviously he trains together, and I really think that Conor is going to dive in on what he needs to do, and he's going to put his heart and soul into Lee, just like he did Artem, and it's going to be the Lee Hammond show, not the Artem show. Let's go, Lee. And I just think that's going to do it. Is Lee Hammond good? Who's he fought? I've not done much sort of tape on Lee. I will be obviously during next week, obviously when I get into the breakdown of him. But he trains at SBG, Charles. Trains with Conor, and obviously trains with Brad Katona as well, because he trains over there. But apparently he's meant to be very good, because he is Conor's #1 lightweight. So that's what I mean. Is he going to be the #1 lightweight? Who knows? I can't wait to get into that fight, and I can't wait to watch that episode, because like I said, it's the Lee Hammond show, not the Artem show. I just can't wait to get into it. I'm just going to go back to the main screen. I'll move on over. Again, crazy. I really don't know if Conor's going to get a victory. Is Lee going to be the one to do it? Let me hear you just before I wrap it up. Let me hear you. Any standouts? Charles, Tuto, Raphael, and Breezy. Any standouts? Obviously, I know not many people are watching TUF, but you know. But yeah, that's all I've got time for anyway. I've been your boy Ash. Stay tuned for obviously the watch along at the weekend. We've got Sean Strickland taking up Abyss Magomedov. again, interesting one. Obviously, Abyss, he's not ranked, and he's taken on Sean Strickland, and I think Sean's roughly 8 or 9, 8, 7. But yeah, obviously Abyss taking on a ranked fighter in Sean Strickland. Going to be a good watch along. There's some good fights on there. Grant Dawson taking on Ismagulov. That's going to be a great fight in the lightweight division. Who's going to take that next step in the lightweight division? Who knows? Who knows? Everyone giving salutes to everyone in the chats. This is why we love the community. Oh, and just quickly before I do wrap it up, as we see, we're on 2,000 subscribers now. So again, thank you so much for all the support. You've just been amazing throughout just over 2 years we've been doing this. Just the community we've got is just amazing. Obviously, look at you already, like welcoming everyone, and just the love and support you even show each other, let alone us. And it's just a joy to have you in the chats, the banter that we have at the weekends and stuff. Let's represent the old Ultimate Fighter. Let's go Team Chandler. But yeah, I'll see you at the weekend for the old watch along. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you for the watch along. See you later, guys.